So I'm assuming everybody can see my screen okay right now. There is a lot to cover. So before I even get started, I need to tell you that as I was doing, while I have a background in sales and many years of experience, anytime I'm going to do a presentation, I like to do some research. I read a lot going into this presentation. And it really kind of moved me to feel like, wow, there's some topics I'm going to talk about here today that I'm not sure can just be talked about without a follow-up. So already you're going to see in here some areas where I talk and I have things highlighted in one of our brand colors, which is raspberry. And when you see that, that means that we are going to do something with that. And we're going to start something new, which will be 30-minute mini sessions just on that single topic. So when I'm introducing some things to you today, I don't want this to be a session where we just throw out these ideas and leave you hanging out there. We will be recording this. You can listen to this, but in addition to that, there's in particular 3 actions that we're going to be able to take post this seminar, excuse me, where you can then kind of build upon what we talk about today, okay? But before we get started, I'd like to introduce you to Bear. Bear is our Chief Distraction Officer. He is the CDO of Unique Venues and has been now for almost 5 years. And so we call him the Chief Distraction Officer because while he is very cute and handsome, he has a tendency to bark in the middle of every presentation or sales call I have. And typically he'll go up to the upstairs office in our home where Neil is, and Neil is at the dentist. So Bear is laying right next to me, and all it's going to take is just the slightest little noise outside, and you will hear him. I'm apologizing in advance for our CDO, okay? All right. So I love that our marketing team came up with this great idea today to change the name of today from leap year to lead year. I love that. And I wanted to jump on that today and say, let's do this. Let's make this lead year. I say some of these things not in a stern way, but just in a realistic way. The first thing is that there's no external excuses for not having a record-setting year. The external factors for our industry are excellent. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, there is a lot of COVID going around right now. It's not stopping anybody from doing anything. So people are moving ahead. They're living their lives. People are back to business. The economy keeps improving. Everything's going great. There are really no external excuses for not having a record-setting year. I think it's pretty safe to say almost everybody on this webinar today can probably list off one or more internal reasons why sales is challenging. But from an external standpoint, the conditions are fantastic for all of us, okay? Our lead volume, we set a record. We surpassed 2023 January significantly. We're already surpassed February 2023, and it's a significant by over 200 leads, I believe, this month. And so, it's there, and the quality and the average spend, everything's looking up. So let's set that aside. Sales, one of the things I hear people say a lot of times is that we're so busy right now. We're so busy right now. Well, right now is right now, but will you be busy 6 months from now? Will you be busy a year from now? Will you be busy 3 years from now or 5 years from now? I have heard far too often from our clients, we really need some help because we just lost our biggest client and we need to fill a $1 million void, or we need to fill a $150,000 loss that we've had because of somebody who is moving their business to some other venue. So sales isn't something that you set on a shelf because things look good on paper, because conditions can always change, situations can arise. And so it's always better to keep your sales engine moving at a good, steady pace, and to be able to create, in a sense, some FOMO, fear of missing out, when you tell people, oh, we wish we could accommodate you, but unfortunately, we're booked for then. Now, we do have some time available here, or we'd love to talk about a future year for you. But I just want to caution people from avoiding the mistake of saying, I'm going to put the brakes on sales for a while because we just don't have the inventory right now. All right. So the third thing I want to say as we kind of lay the groundwork for today is that okay, so I come from a whole different generation of sales. Okay. I come from the briefcase generation. I am that, we used to dress up in really sharp clothes and have a whole plan and be out of the office for days on end and knock on doors and go visit groups and do all kinds of sales calls. I used to go all the time on road trips to do face-to-face sales because that's how we did it back in the day. That really required that you had somebody really full-time, many people full-time dedicated to sales. It meant that there was a lot of time out of the office. But now with digital marketing and the way people want to be sold to today, it's so much easier than back in the day. And so don't think of sales from maybe what was a traditional sense of the word when you were doing it, but think about digital sales today and how you as a consumer act. And, there's a reason why shopping malls are dying, right? Nobody wants to go and touch and feel everything. They're looking for other ways to experience things. They go online, they shop online, they read reviews, all of those things. Remember, everyone is a sales rep for you. Everyone on your staff is a sales rep. Everything they say, everything they do with anyone who's in your venue is potentially impacting sales for you. Your service providers and vendors are sales reps for you because they don't know that you outsourced the technology. They might not know that it's an external caterer. They are always going to align their viewpoints with your venue, not necessarily the subset of people who are bringing their event to life. And then the biggest thing is, all day, every day, we could have a wonderful sales strategy plan all laid out. But, I talk to a lot of people who come from the time where business used to fall on your lap because there weren't necessarily so many tools out there that people had so many options to consider. And so it was much easier for a person to say, oh, I know these 3 places in this city. I'm going to go ahead and reach out to them. Or they were looking through catalogs or, whatever it was. Those days are long past. People can, for instance, go on uniquevenues.com and see 75 to 100 options in a city right now. And we don't offer as many as some other directories do because we don't want to overwhelm the user. There's so many options for people to consider now. So you have to nurture your plan and make it a priority in order for it to be successful. Allie, I'll let me know when there's comments or questions, anything right now?
Nope, all good.
Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and move ahead here. All right. So as I said today's just an introduction to effective sales strategies. We have a really genuine interest in you being successful in selling. And so I'm not going to leave you hanging. I promise we're not going to leave you hanging. We're going to build upon this. We can only do it in the kind of time frame that we have available to do it. But rest assured that, you will definitely have the opportunity to through us at Unique Venues to build upon some of the things we talk about today. So the first thing I want to talk about is just you need to set yourself up for success. this is always difficult for me because I'm a 30,000 foot view person. I don't know how many of you are 30,000 foot view people. But the truth is, like, I'm a dreamer. I think of all of these things and all of these possibilities, and I'm going to go for this and I'm going to get this. And, you know, you have to be able to take the time to set yourself up and do some good planning. One of the most important things for a venue to do is to know and understand your capabilities and limitations. I want you to envision, I'll use this reference several times today, a bowling lane that has bumpers. Okay. Um, when you have a bumper in a bowling lane, if you've never used them, you're never going to get a gutter ball. It's always going to push your ball back into the lane somewhere. You might only get one pin down. You might get a strike out of it. But the bottom line is you never completely fail at anything at your game if you have the bumpers up. Knowing your capabilities and limitations, that's one of the bumpers that you need to have up in your lane when you're trying to sell, because this is your venue's what I call persona. This is who you are. So it's important to understand who is it you can serve, and who is it that you can't serve, and who is it that you're best at serving, and what are the common pain points of people who typically are in different market segments, and do you help alleviate those pain points, or are you a pain would you be a pain point? Is your pricing model right? All of the things to understand, your seasonality and limitations with that. So it's really important to take a really good hard look and bullet dot out who you are and who you aren't, so that you kind of stay in your lane, so to speak, and don't waste time trying to convert sales for people who are unattainable, right? So the second thing to set yourself up for success, and this is in raspberry, this raspberry color. So this is going to be our first mini session that we're going to go ahead and plan from here, is developing a client persona. Client persona development is more than just sitting down and saying, "Oh, who is it that we serve well? Oh, we serve the corporate party gala business because that's who we mostly get." I think it's important to understand, why is it that you mostly get those corporate clients? Why is it that you mostly get a youth camp? Why is it that you mostly get spiritual retreats? What is it about what these types of businesses require to have a successful event? And how do you match up with what it is that they require? So, for those of you who sign up, I'll show you, but we can help guide you through an exercise to help you to develop some of your client personas, because knowing the market segments that you're going to sell to and focus on, and putting that information to work from a marketing standpoint, kind of building all the tools that you need to be able to attract those personas as business, is very important. Even understanding your personas from your most important sales tool, your website. Is your website built to match the people you're selling to? We developed the University of Maine website, which I think there might be somebody on here from the University of Maine. I think I saw someone who was registered from there. But before we developed their website for them, we worked with them on the personas, and that helped us to understand who it is they sell to, so that they were able to have a landing page on their website specific to that each individual persona, if that makes sense. So, because each market segment is different from the other. Know your sales goal and your budget. And I believe that, so I don't like sales goals, and I'll tell you why. And we have a sales goal at unique venues, and we typically hit it. And the reason we typically hit it is because many of you may not know this, but we're 38 years old. The company is 38 years old. So we have historical perspective. We know what rate of retention we're going to have every year. We know what rate of growth we're going to have every year. And so things become fairly predictable for us. And so we have a sales goal. And my problem with sales goals is that I think people look at that number so much that once they hit that goal, their shoulders kind of go down. Not that I want their shoulders up, but they're like, we hit the goal. And kind of the level of industry that we work towards going beyond that goal is less than what it was to hit the goal. So I think it's really good to challenge yourself to know what your sales goal is and then develop what we call reach goal. And so that's maybe something that's X% more that, you find some way to be rewarded or reward yourself or reward your team for hitting that reach goal so that you can keep up the sales momentum. And the reason you want to do that, it's like summer vacation when you were at school. You work and work and work and work for 9 months, and then you're off for 3 months, right? 4 months break. What all of a sudden you have to go back, and it takes a little while to get back into the groove of, wow, I need to be really disciplined. Well, once you start to let your sales acumen down because you've hit your goal, it's hard to get that momentum back up. And so I encourage you to always have a reach goal to keep that going. Always work with marketing. I know some of you have internal marketing teams. I know some of you don't. There are agencies like us and other agencies who can help you externally. But what's important is that based upon your persona, based upon your goal, based upon your budget, you want to build an arsenal of tools to use, mostly digital, so that you can actually hit your sales goals, right? And then I think you should have a sales plan. And here's what I don't want you to do. You don't need to have this 30-page document filled with all kinds of fluffery that about all these things you're going to do. I think what you have to be is very, very black and white about it. Here's who we serve. Here are our goals for each of these. And here's what our sales goal is for each of these market segments. And here's how we're going to go get that. Here's the budget. Here's the revenue that we expect to gain from it. People just want think of it like an executive summary sales plan. And I think it's important not only to build it, but to share that with every stakeholder that either supports you financially, supports you service-wise, supports you staff-wise, so that everybody has an understanding of your goals and how you're planning to move forward. Okay? So, anything, Allie, before I go on?
Nope, you're good.
Okay. Number 2, this is the second thing that we're going to do a mini session on. And I don't even know if we're going to be able to just do it in one mini session. But this is so important. And that is to build conditional logic into your cells. And that sounds to me like things I used to hear when I used to go to geometry class, and they'd start using words like theorems, and I would start having panic attacks inside because I'm like, I don't even know what that means. And I don't, the math wasn't my thing. And I get very intimidated by these kind of like really conditional logic, right? All that stuff. It's really not overwhelming at all. It's just intuitive selling. And the way that you do that is developing and implementing a plan. And so, first of all, some of you, and I don't know how many of you use a sales CRM. So there's a difference between a sales CRM and an event management CRM. An event management CRM is a tool that you use after the business is booked, right? You get the lead, and that's where you start, you send the proposal. There are sales CRMs that help you to gain and acquire new clients and new data and potential people to sell to in the future. And so, for instance, Salesforce is a sales CRM. We tried one we used Free Agent. We've used Infusionsoft. There's all kinds of CRMs out there. How many people on here, you can just kind of go in and maybe type up some of the sales CRMs that you use. If you use a sales CRM, most of them have what we call built-in conditional logic. And basically, this is like you have a strategy Okay. And then there's and if questions after all. So say, I'm going to show you an example in a minute, but you take that strategy and then you have to ask yourself, and if this happens, the next step is this. And if this happens, the next step is this. And if this happens, the next step is this. It's almost like building a flow chart to plan out the entire sales campaign from the time you introduce the sales opportunity to potential clients until the sales campaign is over. And so what you need to do is get all of your ducks in a row. And I mean, that means, and if this, then this. So I'm going to show you a little, just the start of what I did. And it's really rudimentary because, again, I just did it in PowerPoint. But, it starts with initial outreach. This is what you eventually want to get to. As you build your stages, the first stage is initial outreach. The second stage is to just get people to get potential clients into the discovery stage. And then you want to get some of those people into the meeting with you stage. And then you want to get to the proposal, negotiation, and close stage. Okay. So let me just this is just, again, very, very, very basic. We're going to go much deeper than this in our mini session on conditional logic. Okay. So I just said, well, I'm going to send an email to our top 100 prospects with a call to action, and it's for 10% off event space rental. Okay. So red means hot. Orangish yellow means warm, and the light blue means cool. The dark blue for me was just the actual strategy. So the first strategy is we have this email, we put it together, we're sending it out for 10% off event space rental. Okay. When you send out that email, there's going to be a segment of those people who receive that click through a call to action. So your call to action might be, learn more, or complete this, and they fill out a form to learn more. So that's your hot prospects from that first step. The middle ones, they opened it. You can see that there was an open, but they did not interact at all with the call to action, any kind of click-throughs that you have. So for them, there's going to be a different next step. And then there's going to be a whole set of people that didn't open or view the email, right? So if they click through the call to action, then we're going to email them an email designed to engage with the call to action to learn more. If they I can see they opened the email, but they didn't click through, I'm going to send them another email with an incentive to act via the learn more form. So I want them to get to that call to action form. So I'm going to send another email that's designed to incent them to do that. If they didn't even open it, I'm going to email them with a FOMO message. Oh, you might have missed our message that we have 10% off. Don't miss out, kind of thing, right? Then you got to build upon that. So if my strategy is to email to engage with the call to action to learn more, my hot responses are going to be, they're going to click the call to action to schedule a meeting via an online calendar. Asterisks here for everybody. If you as a salesperson do not have an online calendar tool, you need to do it. The worst thing you can ask somebody to do is, what days are you available? What are some days and time you're available? Send me an email with the days and times you're available, because you know what? There are so many tools that say, here's a link to my calendar. Pick a time that works for you and we'll be set to meet. And that calendar system is going to send them reminders a day before, 15 minutes before. They'll have the link to your meeting, all of those things. And they're inexpensive. We use Calendly, and I think we pay something like $8 a month per user in our team. The yellow are warm prospects. They don't click the call to action. So there, I want to connect with them with some urgency. For those people, as you can see, I sent the email with an incentive to act via learn more. The hot prospects are people that fill out the form to schedule a meeting. The other people, I'm going to have to get in touch with them and say, groups are saving 10%. Don't miss out. Only 5 discounts remain, using, again, senses of urgency. And we can go on and on. But you can see that if this, then this, that goes behind conditional logic in a sales campaign. And then you have to know when to end it, right? So like I took this next one, and if people still don't open it, but they click through the call to action and they're not doing anything to keep them in the red, but they're still in the orange, I'm going to just pick up the phone and do a call campaign to them and call them and say, hey, I just wonder, or send a personal email, right? Because we all know what bulk email does. Sometimes it ends up in spam. So, Allie, any questions so far?
No questions.
I am going to ask this question right now. I won't hold anybody to this, but please respond to Allie. First of all, Allie, do we have many sales CRMs out there?
Cater Ease is one, and someone is looking at Stova or Salesforce. CRM Grow.
Okay. Now the question I'm going to ask you to put in, I just want to know, and I guess we could have done a poll, but I'm not that organized, and Joel usually sets this up for us. So what I really want to know is how many of you would really be interested in having a 30-minute session on how to develop a conditional logic campaign? Let us know that, okay? If we have the interest, we'll definitely do that for you, okay? The third thing I want to talk about is don't think of yourself as a salesperson, but instead think of yourself as a venue consultant, because at the end of the day, you're really about providing a solution to people who need one. So, the problem with traditional sales approaches is that we become conditioned to be robotic with what we tell a client. We start to tell them the features, advantages, and benefits. I mean, that was a big thing, fab selling, features, advantages, and benefits. And the problem with that is that you're giving them all of the information, and that might not be the information they want to hear. You might be tone deaf to what it is they really need because you're doing this kind of production line selling. So I want to get you to a point where you learn what it is that the clients really are looking for and how you can solve that for them. So venue finding is exhausting. Again, there are so many options, and there are so few people who do it as a full-time job. Plus, if you're anything like, I know that 50% of the people on here, I know because I know the venues, you deal a lot with people who aren't even planners. They've just been thrown into this role of having to kind of put something together, or they're planning a party, or a wedding, whatever it may be, and they're not professionals at this, right? So finding a venue that can help them is exasperating. There are so many choices. And let's just use the wedding example. There are like 3 or 4 websites that people can go to find tens and tens and tens of thousands of options where to have a wedding, right? But if I'm somebody thinking about my wedding, I'm like, I want like a really beautiful view. I would really love to get married on the beach, and I'd like my reception here, and I'm looking for someplace more casual. It's so hard, right? But hopefully people are using sites that help them to find the right place, right? But there's still so many options. What we want to do is stop clients from saying, I don't have time to look for a venue to use, and just rebooking because it's easier, right? We don't want people not knowing that you're out there as a possible venue. So I want to get you to be a solution-based salesperson, okay? Or a venue consultant. So that goes something like this. So somebody sends you in a request, or they contact you via phone, or you get an email. The wrong way to do it is say, oh, we'd love to host your event. Now, those days are, sometimes you get, those dates aren't available. I'm sorry, we can't help you. And they stop that there. Well, that's not a good way to go. Sometimes the people will send an email or make a call and say, Oh, we'd love to help you. Here's a copy of our brochure. This tells you everything. Here's all of our planning guidelines. Here's here's all of our policies to take a look at so that you can take a look to see if we're a good fit. That happens a lot. The truth is, the very first thing you do is you do like, think of it like an intake form, right? You go to the doctors, right? The first thing they do is they come in. I had a doctor's appointment today because I have to have something done to my hand. And they sat down with me, and for 10 minutes, they asked me questions. So, what are you experiencing? What does it feel like? What's your pain level like? What is so the very first step to do with a potential client is that very same thing. Tell me about your event. What is the event? And who are the people that attend the event? And are these people that typically come year after year, or a lot of them first time attendees? One of my favorite questions to ask is at the end of the event, when it's all over, what are the factors that are gonna make you feel like it's a success? And what are some of the things that have happened in the past that got in the way of you being able to really feel like it was a success? And then now you listen. You really, really listen. Okay. Then you're going to do reflective listening and seek affirmation or clarification that you heard them right. So you might say something after they tell you all about. So it sounds like, and then find some kind of adjective event for you and those attending. So sounds like a productive event for you. Sounds like a really fun event. Sounds like your event was a blast. Sounds like there was a lot of good research presented at your event. Sounds like whatever it is. So I let them know that you really heard them describe the event. It also sounds like what is most important is that this happens and this happens. So it also sounds like, you don't really know how to plan. You've got this. Last year, things went terribly wrong this way. This year, you're planning the event. You want to make sure that doesn't happen again. And so here are some ways that we can help you. So really letting them know what is most important. What I really hear you saying is that, regardless of what happens in the background, you want the people who come there to feel like things are like clockwork and everything's happening on time, everything's happening the way it's supposed to happen. The educational sessions are outstanding. You really want them to remember what they learned and not what happened that went wrong. That kind of thing. That's when you go into our venue can help you in the following ways. And that's like providing, this is where it gets tricky because, again, I know a lot of you on here. And I know that getting the resources to be able to be a venue consultant is tough. One, because I had a sales call earlier today, and they said, it's always crazy. The events industry is always crazy. I feel like all I'm ever doing is reacting. I really don't ever have the time to be proactive. But if you're going to be a venue consultant, it's really important to try to be able to take the time and know who this potential client is so that you can tell them how you can work with them and how your venue is a good fit for them. So you want to provide information that demonstrates that you can help them achieve their goals. And you want to provide assurance in the process of getting to how you will help them. Not only that you can help them achieve the goals, but how you have the experience and processes in place to help them achieve the goals. You always want to follow up. One of the most important things are what we call proof points. I feel a proof point, that's when a product is actually able to go deep enough with how they explain things or show things that it's believable. I'm gonna transform this into a job interview question. Okay. So in a job interview, you can have a standard job interview where you say to someone, what are your greatest strengths in the workplace? And then they spout off and say, we can do this and we can do this and we can do this. I do this. I'm good at this. I'm good at that, right? That's what a lot of people do in job interviews. A proof point would be if you said to them, tell us three, tell the group here, your three greatest achievements in sales in the process of how you were able to secure that sale. What was it that you did? What were some of the processes you used? And how did the client react to asking those questions? There, they have to give proof. They're giving the proof that they know what they're doing. It's the same when you're selling to a client. To say that we're like for unique venues to say, we bring you exposure. We will make sure you have exposure. I can't leave it at that. So we're going to give them a proof point. And a proof point might be a scorecard that says, last year in Metro Baltimore, we had this many planners view profiles on our site for Baltimore. Here's the statistics. Here's the breakdown of the kind of events that they searched for. Here's the average number of leads that a venue received. Here's the average budget of all of the RFPs for Baltimore that were sent last year. So I'm able to provide proof that substantiates that we know what we're doing. Okay. So proof points are very important. Always follow up with a good proposal. And I know it's really easy to have a cookie cutter proposal. You probably have a template. And I always kind of cringe because sometimes people will say, can you build a proposal template? And I'm like, well, I can, but it's really hard. Like they'll say, oh, we need to be able to put in like maybe one personalized sentence if you want. And I feel like that's a little bit dangerous for me. If you're selling to me, I'm going to read right through that. I'm like, oh, this is I'm not sure if they're really addressing me as a group. And so the interesting thing is every time I have to do a proposal, we have to do a proposal. The only thing that's a format is the title of a section. Everything is written. There is no plug and play because each potential group for you is different. And people can read between the lines when you're selling them something canned or when you are sending them a proposal geared specifically for them. Okay. Allison, any questions on this one or comments?
No questions. Because I did get a couple questions that this webinar is being recorded and I will be sending out the recording when it's available to all attendees.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next one, provide a digital venue experience. Okay, so again, this is the way people like experiencing something, but the fact of the matter is that people can't always just come and see your venue. In fact, depending upon what market segments you work with and the reach of your marketing. So if you're a local venue, people could probably come and see it. If you're a regional venue, a lot of people can't take the time out to take a day to drive 3 or 4 hours and 3 or 4 hours back, but maybe they do if it's a full-time job. If you're in a bigger region or national or international, a lot doesn't happen that way. So I don't know if you're like me, but I would say that 95% of all sales done by unique venues is through digital means, whether it's face-to-face meetings or digital brochures or videos or whatever it may be. It's very rare. We used to go to like 10 or 12 trade shows a year. And the truth of the matter is we learned that instead of spending $10,000 to go to a trade show, if we took that $10,000 and put it into digital means, we got about 100 times more response. And the reason that is because people react more to digital marketing. They don't get derailed by it. So anyway, So what's important to do is provide opportunities to experience your venue from their desk. Take inventory and notes of what matters most. So this is going to change from persona to persona. But for different markets that you serve, what's most often asked about your services? What are the things people most want to know about? Can you tell me a little bit about your auditorium, or tell me a little bit about the floor split, the floor space that you convert? So I know you're like an arena, but how do you like convert that space in? Or so you require us to have catering, but we have to use your catering, but how do you do catering? What's the average cost? I don't know. What are the things that people want to know about? And then also, what are the unique selling propositions of your venue? One of the things I love about working with unique venues, I remember we went to a venue in Richmond, Virginia. It was this really cool historical venue that, like everybody else, our venues, unique venues, most of them have a core mission outside of events. This venue's core mission was concerts, but it wasn't a traditional concert venue. It was a venue where they actually took out all of the seats and kind of made it flat rather than gradated, and they built more of a floor standing space and where people can watch and dance, and there was still a stage. But what I loved about it is they also offered the history of the venue, including the haunted history, and they told you different stories about different places in the building where things happen, and you can go there. They told you about the history of who all performed there back in the day, and they had a room that had all kinds of pictures and images and signed autographed images from, Frank Sinatra and this person that people can go in and see. So that's what we're all about. We're unique venues, right? So what are your unique selling propositions of your venue? You need to share those actively, because if they find you in a place like unique venues, that's what they want. So let's bring this all to life. Let's bring these digital experiences to life. So if you're going to do something social, I think one of the best ways for people, there's some good ways to experience, in my mind, through social channels. One is, I think your Pinterest page, having a Pinterest account for your venue and showing how your venue comes to life in a variety of ways, different kinds of setups, different types of table settings, different types of, staging, different types of whatever it may be, showing people highlights of all of these different things that you do can be inspirational for them. So being able to lead them to a page, I think, is really, really great. I've seen, I know that a lot of people on here, some of you do weddings, some of you don't, but we worked with a venue who, back in the day, as I keep saying, they used to do a book of all of the previous year's weddings. And there was a page for each couple who got married, or like a double page. So you got to see things, their pictures, their story, their this, their that. Well, they only saw that if they came to visit the venue, right? But now they do a digital version of it. And so they share the book digitally through flipping through and seeing what people do. And that's an inspirational thing. Video tours with real information. So if you're going to do a 360-degree video and all you're going to do is let me kind of manipulate and go around the room and look, I mean, I'm a consumer. I hate that. I hate that. And the reason that I hate that is because, first of all, I am smart enough to know that everything is distorted in those. Everything looks bigger, right? It's like everything looks bigger. Half the time they're grainy. But there are 360-degree video tours where you can make them interactive, where people can go through, press dots, see the letter I, they click on the I, and it tells you all about the technology that's in front of them, right? And they can learn things about, what's happening. And so I think if you're going to do a video tour, then make it experiential, not just something you look at, but something you can learn and interact with. Maybe you can embed some testimonials in from people, from somebody who used the room, and they click on that eye and they get, click to watch this video, and it's somebody saying, we use the I'm trying to think. There's a venue. I want to say it's Infinity Park in Denver, and they have a whole uh, video wall. So it's like a 360-degree video wall, and it's really cool and it's really amazing. And you know, people, put a put somebody talking, and I said the video wall was such an amazing addition to holding our event at Infinity Park. It really made people engaged with the space, and rather than just kind of like coming in and just talking with each other, people moved around the room, interacted with the room because of the video wall. So that kind of thing. I think it's just really important to give people real information. I think concise and to the point video testimonials. Or the other thing, I love this. I actually did one a long time ago with a venue actually in Wilmington, Delaware, where just having someone you trust to develop a set of questions, and you just kind of sit down. What we did was we sat down in their main venue space, and we had it set up in the most interesting way possible. Like, we could have just done round tables and had that in the background. We didn't. We had the stage set up. We had couches for people to sit in up front. We had chairs for people to sit up in front. We had cocktail tables in the back of the room. We had standard seating in the middle of the room. We just really set it up. And he and I sat in the midst of it. And I interviewed him and I asked him questions. It's like, so tell me about this venue. How did it come to be? And what's the Chase Center all about? And all those kind of things. And it was cool. And they talked, and we recorded it, and we didn't really edit it because we kept it natural. But like, having a good Q&A is really good. And the other cool thing you can do is see if you can get maybe 2 or 3 of your regular clients who can almost be the panel, and the questions are asked them. So you've used this venue 15 times. What keeps you coming back? What is it that you love about using this venue? And asking this question. So I think those kinds of things are of interest, right, to people. Send an experience. So baked goods from the catering. Oops, sorry. This should be with a catering guide. I don't know what a guide 0 is, but with catering guide. Did you ever see any of the branded like V-Box viewers that you can send to people? And like, they're like $4 a piece. And of course, you don't want to send those to everybody, but somebody who's really interacting with you. They're like these, they're almost rubber, and they have a frame for you to fit all different types of phones into: iPhones, Samsung, a variety of different sizes. You create some kind of virtual tour, you send them a branded V-Box viewer, and they can experience a virtual reality experience of your venue. Maybe something as simple as social channels. I don't think they do it anymore, but I remember one of the biggest marketing award, the Adrian Awards. It's a big marketing award program. A few years ago, there were all of these really large CVBs that were up for awards. And along comes little Albemarle County, Virginia, which is where Charlottesville, which is a really cool town, by the way, is situated, but it's not big. And they actually won the award for social marketing. And it was so simple what they did. All they did was give people the permission and opportunity to post their favorite picture from their day in Albemarle County and say what it was and how they enjoyed it and what they did. So people would take a picture of Monticello and say, today we spent a day at Monticello and we loved being here. The history was fantastic. Another person might have put a picture of Bold Rock or this mountain or this river and say, today we took a hike through this park and we loved it. And it showed people enjoying their experience in Albemarle County. So why can't you do the same thing? Asking people, you're the one who ultimately has to approve it. Have them send you a picture from their event with a statement that they can put on, or a short recorded video. Hey, we're here at so and so today, and we're here for a product launch, and we are having a great time. This place is beautiful. I love coming here, whatever. So let your clients tell the story. Let your guests tell the story of your venue. So that's all digital, right? So again, great sales tools. And then the last one I'm going to bring up is to be an industry asset. And notice I'm saying an asset and not an expert. Okay. Sometimes people say industry expert, Chuck Salem. I don't want to be an industry expert. I feel like experts are like untouchable, are not accessible, right? Assets, they're accessible, right? So the difference, it's like the difference between, an expert and an asset is an expert's that money locked away that you can't, your social security, and you can't touch it until you reach a certain age and you've worked really hard to do it. But the asset is the money that you have in a money market, and you can take it out because you're ready to build that pool or whatever it is. I'd rather be an asset and accessible and attainable. And I think you, again, I know many of you, you have the ingredients to be an asset and bring those assets to life. So the first thing I want you to do is really, really get involved. Pick one externally facing organization or association to get involved in. So what I'm not saying is don't do this. Don't get overly involved with an association or organization of your peers. I mean, yeah, you can get involved with them, but in order to be an industry asset, you have to think about who you want to be an asset for. And if you're in sales and marketing for a venue, it's your external clients. So they need to see you and get to know you. So whether it's your local ILEA chapter, if you're more into parties and those types of events, the International Live Events Association, maybe it's Meeting Professionals International, or the local chapter of Religious Conference Managers Association, or the local chapter of, your local sports authority, whatever it is, and getting involved. And what I mean by getting involved is volunteering, rolling up your sleeves and being there to do things, whether it's stuffing bags, helping to set up, or hosting a local chapter meeting, or maybe it's through leadership. And not one time, but you want to become recognizable. You want to become a known asset to that organization. People do business with people, and the more you're out there, people get to know you and they trust you. The next one, this actually should be in Raspberry here. Sorry about that. Is write authoritative blogs as a guest writer. Has anybody out there, let Allie know, has anybody out there ever written a published blog about a hospitality industry topic? Let us know. We're curious. And the reason I'm asking is I want to give, Allie and I want to give you the opportunity to take being a guest writer for a blog as a spin. Now, Unique Venues has a very, very, very active blog, and we have thousands of people who interact with it. And because we are known as an industry asset in certain ways, and we worked hard. I'm not boasting to say that. We've worked 38 years to do that. But a lot of you are industry assets. So we are going to give you the opportunity to email me, chuck@uniquevenues.com, if you're interested in taking a stab at writing an authoritative blog, 500 to 900 or 1,000 words. And we want to just maybe do a digestible listicle. And a listicle is something like 10 new catering trends for association meetings, or 10 new ideas for creative room setups, or on and on and on. So if anybody's interested, we are not making a commitment to publish a blog. I do want you to know that. But anybody who's interested, we're making a commitment to set up a meeting for everyone who's interested all at once. We'll also record it if you can't make it. And we're going to teach you and give you the best tips for writing a blog. And then if you write a blog, you can send it to us and we'll critique it. And if we feel like it's something that's usable on the Unique Venues blog, we'll put it on the Unique Venues blog. And then we have other organizations that read our blog and repost our blog, and sometimes it gets picked up by Google or whatnot, but those are ways to get your name out there. So if anybody's interested in learning how to write a blog, we'll do a mini session on that. For anybody who indicates to us that they're interested in writing a blog, you can just send me an email. Okay. The other thing you can do as an asset is provide planner resources. So, this is an indirect sales tool. These are indirect peripheral sales tools. So putting together event planning 101, especially if you deal with a lot of people, party planning 101, wedding planning 101, conference planning 101. I mean, I used to work for the University of Pittsburgh, and we worked with so many groups and organizations where there was not a professional planner, and they relied on us to lead them in their planning. Yeah, sure. We worked with a lot of professional associations and organizations that had a professional planner. But I also, over and over again, would work for somehow, some way, we got really tied into parent groups who've adopted children from certain places. We'd have a group of people. So if they adopted children from Brazil, for instance, they would all come together, and there'd be hundreds of families who would come in, and they would talk about, keeping the Brazilian culture in front of their children, how to do it. They'd talk about cooking, they talk about activities, they did all kinds of things. They knew a lot about how to adopt and raise a child, but they did not know how to make plans for 200 or 300 people, because every year it was a different group in a different place that was planning it. So being a resource, I know a lot of you do resources. If you're at a university, for instance, I know a lot of you do resources, provide resources for student groups and student organizations and faculty and staff of how to have an event on campus. But how much do you do that from a digital standpoint to potential clients? So those are just some of the things. I never finish, and I just did. It is 3 p.m. and I finished. But the only reason I finished is because we have 3 kind of extensions of this program. So any questions, Allie?
No questions right now. We do have some interested people in taking stab at writing blogs and learning more information. So I'm keeping track of everyone. There was a question about maybe doing it in a different language. And yes, we can have multilingual blog articles. So we will follow up with everybody who would be interested, and we can schedule a session.
Great, fantastic. Always open to feedback. We hope that this was helpful for you, and that there's at least one thing that you can take away from here and implement or start to develop. So, and know that when you're part of Unique Venues, you're not just a place where you advertise, you are our partners. And anytime you want some help or advice, it doesn't have to be about your profile. It doesn't have to be about a lead you get from us. It could be, you have a challenge, let us know. We're glad to give you any advice if you want it. So, okay. So I'm really pleased, and I wish you all the very best, and let's hope this beautiful weather continues. I hope you're not getting bad weather today. Somebody wrote on here that they're free of tornadoes today, which insinuates that recently they've had tornadoes. But we hope everybody's safe and doing well and looking forward to the spring and summer. Watch for dates for the next set of these mini programs and more information on how to follow up. Plus, we have some additional webinars that you can find at Unique, Allison, correct me if I'm wrong, but uniquevenues.com/resources.
That is correct.
Uniquevenues.com/resources. All right. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Have a great day.